Do you have volumes of old photo albums just sitting around taking up valuable space? I know I did. And my parents had even more albums than I did. So when it came time to helping them downsize for a move to assisted living, I knew the solution was going to be digitizing those old photo albums. In this video, I have compiled 3 episodes that will take you step by step through the process of digitizing your photos. It's not as difficult as you may think, and there's no better gift you can give yourself or your parents or other family members than digitizing those photos to be displayed on a phone, a computer, a digital photo frame to be enjoyed for now and years to come. The first step is to decide how you're going to digitize the photos. You've basically got 3 options. You can send your photos out to a professional scanning service that will scan the photos for you. You can download an app on your phone that will help make the process of scanning easier for you, or you can buy a scanner and scan them yourself. If you've got the budget, a professional scanning service like Scan Cafe, Dig My Pics, Scan Digital, or Legacy Box is the way to go, but they're not cheap. First, you will need to be willing to trust your photos to be handled safely through the mail. Then the cost can be anywhere from 40 to 60 cents per photo, depending on the size resolution you choose. 300 dpi is the lowest resolution I would recommend, and 600 dpi is a pretty standard range for most photos. This will allow you to do enlargements up to 5x7 or 8x10 with no problem. But if you want to preserve the photo for archival purposes or to enlarge it beyond 8x10, I would go with the 1200 dpi. Some of these scanning services will even remove the photos from the photo album for you for a fee. If you have a ton of photos, expect to spend $2,000 to $4,000 with upcharges for removing photos for albums or different resolution sizes or even your preferred delivery method. I've used Dig My Pics before and they did a pretty good job, but it's not the cheapest solution, nor is it the fastest. Expect the turnaround to be anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to 2 to 3 months. So if you're in a hurry, do it yourself. The second option for digitizing your photos is also the least expensive, and that would be to simply download a photo scanning app to your phone. Google Scan is one of the more popular apps, and it's free. It'll scan the image up to 5 times, doing a pretty good job of removing glare and cropping the image, but it doesn't have many editing features beyond that. Another highly rated choice is either PhotoMine or PicScanner Gold, but you might have to suffer through ads or pay an upgrade to get full features. If you choose this method, you're going to want to invest in an overhead phone rig to make the process easier. A quick Google search will yield plenty of options with gooseneck arms, articulating arms, boom extensions, and they'll run in price between $25 and $200. I've found brands like Archon and Glide Gear to be pretty reliable, but you won't have a problem finding an overhead phone solution on the internet. The downside to this method is that it may take you a little bit of time to get a decent photo. The quality is generally not as good as the other 2 methods mentioned in this video. You may end up taking multiple scans to get a decent image that doesn't have glare or shadows or some strange distortion. But if you're just interested in getting a digital copy of the photo, this is the cheapest way to go. The third option for digitizing your photos is to buy a scanner, and that's ultimately what I ended up doing. I wanted a good quality scanner that didn't cost thousands of dollars, so I went with the Epson Perfection V600 photo scanner, which I got at Best Buy for about $250. It's a flatbed scanner, so that allows me to scan multiple images at once. I was even able to scan entire pages from a photo album, and with the tools that come with the app, you're able to edit and crop them as you like. At first, I was concerned about the glare that I might get from those plastic protective sheets that used to come in the old photo albums, but I found that this didn't cause a problem at all. And being able to leave the pictures in the photo albums as you scan will save you tons of time. Now, you could get the Epson Fast Photo Scanner, which will scan photos as fast as 1 photo per second. But the downside to that is that you have to remove each photo from the photo album in order to feed it through the scanner. Also, it's about twice the price of the V600. So for me, it was a no-brainer to go with the cheaper option. I brought the scanner to my parents' house and I set up a little scanning station where I scanned as much as I could each day. I started with the largest volumes first so that those heaviest, bulkiest items were disposed of before the moving trucks came. Still, I ended up taking home 8 to 10 of the smaller albums with me, but these were more manageable in size. And in the end, I was able to tell my parents that I saved every single photo they had ever taken. The downside to this method is that it takes time. But if you want the best quality and you've got the time, this is the way to go. Any one of these methods will get the job done. It just depends on your budget, your time frame, and the quality you're after. I'm curious to know which type of digitizing method you decided to go with. I have a feeling a lot of people our age are going to find themselves needing to digitize their family albums in a hurry. And I would love to know if you have a better solution or if you like one of the solutions I've mentioned today. Now that you know how you will digitize your photos, it's time to get organized. Trust me, any time you spend on the front end making sure your photos are in the best order will save you tons of time on the back end. Take an inventory of all the photo albums and scrapbooks that you intend to preserve and make notes on the contents of each album. If your albums were laid out chronologically, you're in luck. But if you're like me, you may find photos from the 1990s stuffed into an album from the 1970s. It was obvious that some photos have been borrowed from one album over the years and then hurriedly stuffed back into the wrong album. So in that case, you may have a little housekeeping to do. But I ended up not worrying about this too much, and I'll share with you why a little bit later. In the digital world, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures to choose from. But back in my parents' day, they had one roll of film to capture the moment. When a roll of film was developed, it came back with multiple prints in a variety of sizes because, of course, we had to send that one photo to every family member and every friend. I discovered one of my mother's favorite practices was to take a single photo and disperse it between several different photo albums. This caused a bit of a nightmare. Do yourself a favor and mark every duplicate that you can find with a sticky note so that you won't make the mistake of scanning the same photo multiple times. After the fact, I had to go back and search for the photos that were the same but had different dimensions and different resolutions and throw out the lowest quality ones in favor of the higher quality ones. I could have saved hours if I had only marked my duplicates before I scanned everything. Another mistake I made was in thinking that I had to scan every single photo in each album. Make a judgment as to how important the picture is before you scan it. Cameras have come a long way since the Kodak Instamatic, and we have yielded generations of very savvy photographers. Not so much back in the day, at least not in my family. So many of my family's photos were of terrible quality. They were overexposed, underexposed, blurry, or just had poor composition in general. Somehow we thought the quality of these images was good enough to preserve in a photo album. If that photo of Aunt Martha is precious to you, even though you can barely make her out, by all means keep it. But if the image quality is poor and you have other pictures of Aunt Martha, consider tossing it. Remember, scanning will not improve the quality of the photo. Yes, you can make minor adjustments to exposure and color, but there's little to be done when the image is blurry or out of focus. Garbage in, garbage out. Now, while you've got your pad of sticky notes and you're marking your duplicates and your poor quality images, you may want to also tag similar or nearly identical photos. 1 or 2 good photos of blowing out the candles on the birthday cake is just as good, if not better, than 10 additional photos of nearly the exact same thing. You'll be glad you culled these out before you begin scanning. Now, I have a bonus tip coming up to help you identify near identicals, but let's keep focused on organization for now. In the Settings dialog panel of your Epson software, you'll have the opportunity to create a unique suffix for the batch of photos that you're scanning. Something like a name, a date, or an event, and then it will auto-populate a suffix with a series of numbers. I generally start with a name or an initial followed by an underscore and then a brief description of what kind of event it is. Something like Stephen, childhood, then a number. Decide now how you will name each photo album in a way that makes sense for your photos. My mother had separate albums for her childhood, her wedding, the vacations my parents took, and one for each child in the family. So it was logical to stick with those categories and name each batch of photos in a way that mirrored each album. I'll show you exactly how to do that when we get to the next episode. But for now, all you need to do is think of a naming convention that will fit all your photos and stick with it. In this episode, we're going to jump straight into specific scanner settings and give you a few photo editing tricks that will help give you high quality photos to share with your parents and your other family members. Connect the scanner to your computer either wirelessly or with a USB cable according to the instructions. Download the drivers appropriate for your operating system. Once added to your Applications folder, select Epson Software, then Epson Scan 2 to open the app. The first thing to do is check your scanner settings. Be sure Epson Perfection V600 is selected. I usually leave scan settings to the default, and I make sure that my mode is set to photo. My document source says scanner glass, and my document type is reflective. I usually leave image type to 24-bit color, even though you can see these images are grayscale and that's a bit of overkill. But when I switch to colors, I won't have to remember to change the setting. Make sure that this thumbnail box is not checked, and change the preview mode so you can see the full page you are scanning. I prefer this so that I can easily make a marquee selection. The resolution is something you really want to pay attention to depending on how large you want your image to be. If it's just a standard photo that won't be preserved for posterity or printed, you'll be okay using 300 dpi and the original size to scan. If you know you want to enlarge the photo, go ahead and choose a larger DPI. The larger the print, the bigger the DPI. To print a 5x7, go up to 600. And if you want to go to an 8x10 or larger, you may want to go up to 1200. And of course, if you're going for poster size, you can go up as large as you want to take it. For general purposes, I leave mine set to 300. If you want your printed image to be larger than the original size, you can see the original dimensions here with the resolution of 300 dpi. You can change the output image to be whatever dimension you prefer. It's sometimes easiest just to select this zoom feature and type in 200 times zoom, and you can see the resolution change to 600 dpi. Or you may even want to go up to 3 times the size, and the resolution increased to 900 dpi.
But don't forget that your file size will increase with the larger DPI. And remember, if the quality of the photo was grainy or out of focus to begin with, increasing the DPI will not improve the quality. For the scanning quality, I would say standard is probably okay, but if you want to get the best possible quality, scan at higher resolutions and select high for the scanning quality. The trade-off is that the scans may take longer and you may want to try scanning a photo on high quality and one on standard quality to see if there's a discernible difference. I leave the color management panel and the thumbnail options alone. If your photos are loose, arrange them neatly on the scanner. It will be much easier to select and crop the image if they are square to the edge. When you're ready, use the preview feature to select your photos before you scan. You may want to use the auto exposure, and the better your crop is, the better it will do with corrections. Try not to get the white border or other types of borders in your image, or it will try to correct for those border areas. If you want to capture the date, I'm going to show you a way that you can include that in your metadata a little bit later. If you are scanning an entire page of a photo album, it can be tricky if your photos are not aligned perfectly straight. I had several albums where photos were haphazardly stuck to the page, and these were rarely straight. It could be that you have not gotten your photo album straight, or it may be that the photos were not arranged in the album square to the edge. So you've got two choices. You can redo the preview scan, hoping that you will get a straighter image, or you can remove the photos from the album, which takes a little bit longer. You can just scan the image at a slight skew and adjust it later in an editing program like Photoshop or Lightroom. But if you'd rather not do further editing, consider taking any crooked photos out of the album and lay them on the scanner bed square to the edge. Decide what format you want your photos to be stored in. JPEGs are smaller files and are easy to share via the internet and social media platforms, but you do have less compressed options available to you. You need to decide where to store each photo before you scan it. If you want to keep track of each photo album, set up folders so the photos from each album get stored in a corresponding folder. If you go to the settings panel again, you may select what format you want your image to be saved as. And here you can change the prefix of the file name to anything that makes sense to you. If you add the date and the hours, minutes, and seconds, that will be the date that you are currently scanning in the file. If you know that the date was, say, a general year like 1967, deselect the date features and add it with an underscore to your file prefix. Name the photo as you go with a year or a name. Decide where you want to store the folder. In most cases, I'm storing my photos on an external drive, but you can create a new folder or select a folder in any location you prefer.
When you add a unique prefix to the batch of photos that you are scanning, the files will sort alphabetically. So no matter how you choose to categorize, the file name itself will sort each album for you. To save time, I would recommend going with broader categories like name _ childhood instead of name, childhood, preschool, Easter. At this stage, you're going for speed. You can always further categorize later. Decide if the editing features that come with the Epson V600 are adequate for your needs. Sometimes I just use the auto exposure feature on the scanner and just speed right through. Other times the photo may need more attention, so I'll throw it into Photoshop or Lightroom to give it that extra bit of help. You can get a subscription for about $120 a year that will help you with editing that you may need beyond auto exposure and some minor color correction. I think think almost every photo you scan can be improved with a few simple tricks. First of all, when you're making your marquee selection, it's easy to improve the composition of the photo when you make your crop. Use the law of thirds to make sure your subject is well positioned in the frame. Generally, the eyes should fall in the top third of the frame, and the subject should fall in the center or the left or right third of the frame. If the background is not interesting, just go ahead and crop it out. However, there will be times when what's in the background is just as interesting as what's in the foreground. I love to see the cars or houses in the background of old photos. So be sure you're not cutting or cropping out something that may be interesting to look at down the road. But if your photo just has poor composition in general, you can usually improve that with a good crop. The V600 and other good photo scanners will have some editing features that will also help you improve the quality of your photo. The auto exposure feature will get you off to a good start, but you can also make further adjustments in brightness and contrast and curves and tone adjustment that will enhance the quality of your photo. If you've got older color pictures from the 70s and 80s, they will often suffer from a color casting that's orangey or yellow. I like to use the color restoration feature that will instantly improve the quality. If you come across a photo that you know needs a further editing adjustment, but you don't want to interrupt your workflow, temporarily rename the photo with the adjustment needed. For instance, this pic needs red eye removal, so I will keep the file name intact, but add the prefix red eye or RE so I can quickly find it later when I have time to make the correction. Once I have made the adjustment, I remove the added prefix when I save the file, so the photo gets stored in its original location within your filing structure. For the most part, when I'm scanning a ton of photos, I let the auto exposure and the auto color correction do the bulk of the work. Then I can always go back through my photos to find the files with the adjustment temporarily added to the file name and make those adjustments in Photoshop. If you're going to all the trouble of capturing all these photos for posterity, why not take it one step further and make sure the image quality is as good as it can be? Now you're ready to begin the real work. Once you get the hang of the scanning process, you'll develop a rhythm and you'll be able to do it without thinking very hard about it. So put on some good music and start scanning. It's a good idea to rotate your photos into the correct orientation as you're organizing. There are all kinds of programs that will rotate a photo for you. If you're a Mac user, you can throw it into preview and rotate it and save it. That way, the photo is in the correct orientation in your photo albums or on a digital photo frame. But if I need more precision with my adjustment, I use Photoshop to make more precise adjustments. It's as easy as dropping your image into the program, go to Image, Rotation, Arbitrary, then you can make a precise adjustment. Now you're ready to move to the final phase of this entire process, and that is organizing your photos into a searchable database and preparing them to be viewed on a digital photo frame. Don't miss part 3 of this series next. Now you're ready to move on to the final phase of this entire process, and that is organizing your photos and preparing them to be viewed on a digital photo frame. I have a bunch of photos that I neglected to name while I was scanning. So I'm going to go to my hard drive where I've stored all my photos and rename the prefix to something meaningful. Let's widen this so I can see it. And scroll down to about where I think it starts.
Now, you can use this list view if you've named your files, and that kind of gives you a heads up. But I went to this grid view, gallery view. You can scroll quickly to see, okay, where is the baby picture I'm looking for? Okay, this is the first one. And the last three numbers of that JPEG are 403. IMG, that's an image file, and that is the date, 2021-12-13. This is the first file, and I know if I scroll down, I can find the ending file and make note of that number. Okay, that's the last file there, 853. So now what I can do, that I know the first one ends with 403 and the last one ends with 853, I'm going to change this to list view. And there's the last one, 853. Highlight all the other ones up until 403 and go to rename. Now what I want to do is find anywhere in this highlighted selection that says IMG and replace it with my sister's name. And they become remapped. 403 alphabetized with Joy's name. So now Joy's name can be easily sorted from the rest. I love when I find a photo where my mother or my grandmother has written something on the back of the photo. It's easy to add a caption or descriptive detail to your pre-digital photos, no matter what photo application you use, simply by editing the metadata. Metadata is the information the camera captures when a photo is taken. It provides all kinds of details about the image and the camera used to take it. You can add a caption or a descriptive title to a photo you have scanned by editing the Photos app using the Info tab. Select your photo and either go up to this Info icon here, which will bring up the Info tab here. Or what I like to do is select the photo and simply hit Command I to bring up the same window. Now you can see I've given this a title, but when I look at the date is incorrect. November 1st, 2021. I happen to know that this photo was taken in 1961. So I can click on the date here and adjust the date and time of the selected photo. The original date is the date it was scanned. The adjusted date would be February 4th of 1961. The time was 7 p.m. Hit adjust. Now you will see that the original date is listed on the Info tab. To add a caption, just type in whatever you would like. If there's something listed on the back of a photo, this is a good place to list it. I'm going to type in, I can add a keyword here, and I can even assign a location. If you have multiple photos where you would like to adjust the capture date, select the photos and head to Image, Adjust Date and Time. We'll get the same pop-up window. And now, Command I, and you will see the date has been changed. Now when you search by year, all those wedding photos are under 1961. It's a good idea to use keyword tags if you ever want to search for a specific photo in your library. Select the photos, either singly or multiple photos at once. Command I again. Add a keyword. Name, underscore, and event. That keyword is added to all those photos. Now, when I do a search, I type in the keyword, And there are the photos from that collection. Another tip for organizing within the Photos app is to go to your Photos library, select People, and you can name faces so that the application will identify people that you tag. It's a good idea to use maiden names whenever possible. You may have to confirm additional photos that the app finds, but you can click yes or no. And now any other photo of Emily will be identified by her name. I'll tag one more. This is Marie. Now, if I come across any other photos of Emily or Marie, you will see their faces have been captured. If you plan to export your photos from the Photos app to another application like Lightroom, you'll need to learn how to edit the metadata so that it will be preserved no matter what application you use. It's important to note that changing the Info tab will only affect the photos within the Photos app. Once you export the photos to view in another photo application, the edited metadata will not transfer with it. To make sure that the metadata remains with the photo, no matter what program you're using to view it, learn how to edit the metadata in Lightroom. Open Lightroom, select the library you want, select the photo you want, or group of photos. Go to Photo, Edit Date and Time. Here you will be able to type in the date that you want to change it to. An approximate date is fine, and hit Change. If I wanted to select a group of photos, go to Photo, Edit Date and Time, and type in your corrected date. Now, when I export the photo or group of photos, select the photo on my desktop, bring up the Info panel, and you will get more info so you can see that the correct metadata exported with the photo this time, so that when I open it in another application like Preview, Command I, you can see the Digitize date, 2017, and the original date that we just adjusted, 1961, exported with the photo this time.
Here's a bonus tip for you. After you have scanned all your photos, I highly recommend that you run your photos through a duplicate finder. At the end of my project, I had 6,000 photos. After running them through a duplicate finder, I eliminated 2,000 photos. If you didn't organize on the front end, then running a duplicate removal is an absolute must. There are free duplicate finder apps out there. I tried one called System Duplicate Finder, but it missed several duplicates and it ended up pulling some photos that it thought to be duplicates when in fact it just shared a similar background or had a similar color range. It'll get you started if you need something free, but it's not perfect. Easy Duplicate Finder is a well-reviewed app, and they have a free trial version if you want to check it out. But by far the best option was Power Photos. David Cox with Tech Talk America has some fabulous videos on organizing photos, and I highly recommend all of his tutorials. He teaches an easy-to-follow structure for organizing photos by year, and he also has a video dedicated to removing duplicates in Power Photo. I'll add some links in the description. For $30, it will be money well spent. If you do search for a different duplicate finder, be sure to choose one that compares photo content and not just file name. I can't tell you how many times I have named and renamed photos, and running a duplicate search based on file name has never yielded good results. The coup de grace for all your hard work is to transfer the photos you have scanned into a digital photo frame via Wi-Fi, an SD card, or a thumb drive. Digital frames are everywhere these days with Wi-Fi or USB options, and many even have their own email addresses so that friends and family can mail their photos directly to the photo frame. Since my parents are not tech savvy, I chose the simplest photo frame I could find that requires you just to put your photos on a thumb drive and stick it directly in the back of the frame. The photos can be set to advance at 5, 10, or 15-second increments and can be programmed to turn on or off at desired times. Some of them even have motion detectors, and so they don't even come on unless someone walks into the room. At the beginning of this video series, I shared that I didn't worry too much about scanning photos in chronological order. And here's why. You can set the photo frame to randomly display photos. It's actually my favorite way to view the display because it doesn't become too predictable and it always has good variety. I love seeing a picture of my grandparents' wedding followed by my nephew's baby pictures, followed by a current picture of my husband and me on vacation. My parents love it, and it's a fun way to reminisce with them as we watch it together. Once you have tackled the challenge of preserving your family's photos, you can move on to the move itself. Go from this to this without losing a single memory. Having a lifetime of photos rotating through your parents' new photo frame will help create a warm, familiar environment for your parents' new place. Photos that have been stored away for years are now ready to be enjoyed by your parents and other family members for years to come. It becomes increasingly important to your parents, especially if they begin to suffer from memory loss like mine. Photos have a way of connecting memories of old friends or family members that can sustain your loved one during times of loneliness or isolation. Digitizing your parents' photo albums is truly the gift of a lifetime, not only for them, but for you. If you begin to notice that your parent may be experiencing difficulty with memory loss, check out the 9 signs your parent may have dementia.